Good morning. Our hand today is going to be pocket jacks. We are in early position. We open raise and we get a big blind caller. Our open raise range is pretty standard. The caller's range is going to be a little bit harder. He's playing 19-19. We only have 21 hands on him. If we look at his 3-bet range, we can see that he has 3-bet with jacks plus and ace jack. So I'm going to set up these hands as 3-bet. I'm going to say he's not overly loose. He might actually be on the slightly tighter side. So I'll give him a range that looks something like this. Flop comes out king 7-6 and villain checks to us. So I think this is a board that tends to favor us. We've got a few more kings than he does. I think because of that, we're going to probably favor a larger bet size, a larger c-bet size. So if we were to kind of break down what our c-bet is and our bluff range, I kind of went ahead and looked at all of this. So I think for value, we've got top pair plus, and then I think we're betting these undercards, under pairs, and the middle pairs. Those are probably more for bluffs, and we're going to have to use those because we don't really have enough flush draws or open enders, straight draws, gut shots, and so forth. So we kind of have a decent break. Now we're not betting everything. You can see that there are some hands, some of the 2-card backdoor flush draws that we're not betting. Some of the junk hands that don't have any backdoor flush draw potential. So I think we're betting these. And again, I think I prefer a slightly larger size. Maybe to 66%, so like 4 big blinds, a little more than 4 big blinds. I bet in villain calls. Villain hasn't really been in this spot because we only have 21 hands, so we're just going to go off of what I think most people play, and that's at least a top pair plus. I think sets might raise at this point. There's a chance that he raises sets, and maybe even 2-pair at this point. Not guaranteed. Not everyone does that, but I think enough players do. Sometimes they wait until the turn. So, if we set up a percentage and say a 50% chance that they have a set, I think that might be realistic. 50% they have 2-pair, that could be realistic. So we could do something like this and say, when he just called, we're reducing the chances that he actually has these big hands. But I think top pair, I think a lot of times this is a 5 NL game, so they probably call with their middle pair as well. Not sure if they call with a pocket pair below the board, but definitely flush draws, open enders, and so forth. So we've got his call, turns a 7. I don't think that changes a whole lot. So, and I'm not expecting villain to bet. If villain bets here, it's going to put us in a tough spot because I think, 6 could bet, a 7 could bet here, open ender, flush could bet. I think it's an unusual play. It's kind of designed to throw me off, and he would definitely throw me off. So, check to me. I've got jacks. I think here we're looking at kind of a checking range that looks something like this. We're not going to bet everything that we have, but I do think we're going to bet some of our good hands. So quads, I've got full houses, but we're not betting all full houses. I think we bet our 6s because if we bet our 6s, it increases the likelihood the villain has a king. Whereas for us, I think we can get by with just checking a king, checking pocket kings. I think these hands are going to protect our checking range. Same thing, 3 of a kind. I think it's just going to bet. A king X could still be out there. Overpair, I think is still going to bet. Maybe not all of them. I think I'd probably lean towards betting aces if I didn't have the ace of diamonds. And then our top pair hands, I think we're betting most of our top pair. I think ace king we're going to withhold as a check, kind of help protect our range here. Our top pair range, pocket pair below the top card. I think we're more likely to check our higher pocket pair than our lower ones. I think we're betting 8s and 9s, and then we're gonna basically bet our flopped, bet our open ender and our gut shot. So if we bet and get raised, we can probably fold these. and we're gonna have, you know, decent hand. We're gonna be, you know, basically mostly solid at that point. Whereas with the flush, we're gonna be drawing, and we're probably gonna be drawing to hit that flush draw. So I kind of like including some of the flushes. Not sure if that's correct or not, but I think that's what it is, what we would probably do. So we checked, we narrowed our range. Villain still has everything in his range. 4 clubs comes out. Villain checks. Here on the 4 clubs, I kind of feel like, here it is. I kind of feel like flush draws and 3 of a kinds are gonna lead. Now that I showed weakness, I kind of feel like they're gonna bet something to try to get some value. When he didn't, I think that means he's got top pair or lower. So you've got, you know, top pair hands, pocket pair less than the top card, ace high. If I bet, I think he's gonna fold those, and I think he's probably only gonna call a top pair type hand. I kind of, maybe he calls the 8s, 9s, and 10s, but I feel like most of the time it's going to be one of these top pair hands. So, you know, if we bet, he's calling about 60% of the time. That's kind of the idea that I have. And that means then when we go back to our hand and say, well, what hands are we going to bet? We can't bet everything, especially when we think about our top pair hands, you know. And I have, you know, the top pair, you have like the hearts. Well, yeah, I think those were going to be hands that we bet, you know, the king, queen, king, jack, and so forth. So they're not technically in the range. I think we bet our top pair, but I don't think we're going to be betting these, the 10s, jacks, queens. I don't think we're betting the weak pair and most of the ace highs. I think we're using those just as a check for showdown value, because if we bet and get called, we're probably losing. So I did check, and he shows 10s, so that fits in with his underpair here, kind of right at the top of that underpair, which is interesting. Now what I did was I pulled up a GTO solver, so we're gonna go ahead and run this and see what GTO plus says. So we'll be back when it's done. Alright, so I set this up so villain checks, just kind of goes with what I think he's going to do. And then we look at our range, and you can see that, yeah, the larger sizing is preferred. With our jacks, it looks like it is looking at more checks. I don't think I have a jack of diamonds. Nope. Leaning more towards check here. If we do bet, it looks like he wants us, GTOs having us bet the smaller size. Our larger size seems to be evenly split if we have the jacks. So looks like maybe we're going larger size if we have like the aces, ace x hands as our bluffs, or kings. So maybe the larger size, that's the flop's favorable for us. Maybe it's just the hand. So let's go with a half pot isn't even favored at all. So you can see I go half pot and I've got nothing in my range. So let's say I did the larger size and villain calls. And then we had 7 in hearts. Villain checks again. Then what do we do? If we were making that bet with the jacks, which again we could. I mean, we had a small percentage. You know, we had 16% of the time we could bet, so it's not like it's awful, but we should probably be leaning more towards the check. Once we do that, then we are checking the jacks again, and it looks about right. Quads, though, he has us betting quads, which we were. Full house, sometimes the king. So we're sometimes checking the king. That's in our range. We're betting 3 of a kind. The overpair, sometimes we're betting the overpair, sometimes we're not. Top pair, ace king, we're betting. We're right, king queen king jack. We're pretty not, you know, we're probably not. Some of our flush draws we're betting, but we're not betting all of them. And that's kind of what I expected. We can't just say we're going to bet all of them. We're not. So 9-8, so that's a gut shot with the flush draw. Queen Jack. I guess I'm not sure why Queen Jack. 9-8, Ace 4. Ace 4, Ace 5. What about the turn flush draw? So we've got, you know, the aces. More likely to do it with a heart than we are with a diamond. Okay, so we did check, and then this was the 4 clubs. So we did right with the check for the jacks. Villain checks behind, and then we could sometimes bet. But usually we're going to be betting those under pairs. We're betting our top pairs. Looks like we're betting king, queen, king, jack as well. That's somewhat for value over pair full houses. And then we're tossing in some no mate hands. So we kind of have that right. Question is, what happens if we just check it? So let's say we checked it. And then if villain bets, we call with our jacks. We call with our jacks. And then if he bets again, we're probably calling again, or at least GTO suggesting we call again. We're calling with like a top pair and queens and jacks. I'm not sure if I necessarily like that at a 5NL game. It takes a special person. I kind of feel like more than likely it's going to be a check. He'll take a shot at the turn and then he checks, or he checks the turn, and then maybe leads the river. So I think I probably would have played it correctly up to here. If he bets again, I probably would have just folded those jacks. What if he checks it? So now we checked 7. He checks the turn. Do we bet? Now we should be betting a little bit. If I bet and he calls and then checks to us, then we're going to be betting again. The question is why? Because I guess he's got a lot of, he's got kings, he's got some overcards. Those are probably draws. Oops, here we go. Yeah, most of it's pocket pair less than the top card. So he's got a lot of, you know, 8s, 9s, and 10s. So we're betting those with the idea probably that he's going to call some of those. And he probably would if we took this line. So I guess I understand that bet sequence. So overall, the bet's okay. GTO agrees with it. I should say the C bet's okay. GTO agrees with it. But I think overall, we're using those as checks. And we're checking some of our top pair with the lower kicker as well. We have to have some in our check range to protect those hands. But if we bet, we are usually going for the larger sizes. There are a couple with the smaller sizes that we toss in, but it seems like betting larger is favored on this board. So hopefully you enjoy this hand. If you do, look tomorrow for another one.